out of those.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Hanging with the Hammer. Roll. There it goes. Oh, go again. All right.
Wow.
Good morning, everybody, and thanks for hanging with the hammer. Kelly got in early. Last time I did one of these, every time I've done this before, people just showed up in the middle of the stream somewhere. So it looks like we got Brian on early. So nice to see you, Brian. Good morning. Today's hanging with the hammer. We're going to hang with Kelly KMKanDrum today. So. And I always butcher your last name, Kelly. So why don't you say it properly for me? I say Kusumoto, but I'm probably butchering the heck out of that, just knowing.
I mean, it doesn't really matter to me. I don't even actually know the proper Japanese way to say it. I mean, I guess whitewashed way is Kusumoto. So that's how I've said it my whole life. But I'm probably actually butchering it from the Japanese way. So. Whatever you like, it really doesn't matter to me. It's not something that's really important.
Right. No, very cool. So today we've got Kelly on the show today. We will take some questions. This is really impromptu, but Kelly has the distinction of actually interviewing me about 2 years ago on his first show. And I really enjoyed that. Good morning, Keith. I really enjoyed being on your show, and we did that. And it happened at a very interesting time in my life. It was about a month before my son passed away, and we got into some really interesting family things because you were just about ready to have did your little girl come yet, or she was just about to be born, I guess?
I think, geez, that whole first year is like a whirlwind. I think she was already born, but she was like maybe like a couple of months or so.
Right. So we got into some of the family things, being the grandpa I am. I mean, I got 10 grandkids, so trust me, I'm a grandpa as much as a father, And I've gone back on that interview a few times and listened to what I said. It breaks me up that I was so spot on about life, because you just don't know. Really don't know what life's going to do to you and where life's going to take you and how it's going to treat you. And all I can tell you is almost a year and a half, about a year and a half through this, I'm not really through it. I live every day, but I live with the understanding that he's not here, so. And it's been a tough year for everybody. I know we've all lived through the pandemic. So I guess my first question to you is, how have you survived the pandemic? I mean, did you continue working through that period of time? You moved, I know that. You changed houses. That was been a big deal. So share a little bit of your story.
Yeah, so I think it's funny that I'm sitting here talking to you because our first interview, I was kind of juggling through my whole belief system. And I believe it was you and Rhythmantic Sal who really kind of changed the way that I perceive being religious and being a believer. And for the longest time, I was, I went through the whole motions, atheist, agnostic, and then now I feel like I'm more of a believer. I'm not going to pretend to say that I know anything about Christianity or Jesus Christ. I just know that I have this feeling, and that's the first step. And my wife and I are now starting to look for churches and all of that. So with all that said, it goes to how you and I have been talking. And I feel that every single thing, every angle of my life has to do with the belief in God now. And it's not because I'm being like a religious person. It just happens to be that way. And with this pandemic, I think it's highlighted my beliefs. So and when I say I've been blessed through this pandemic, I mean it kind of in a literal sense, that the way that I feel inside. Both my wife and I have been able to work through the whole time. She's had her job the whole time. I've had my job the whole time. We moved from, Philly proper to the suburbs, and that's been a blessing. Even though we went through the flood, that actually has been a blessing as well. So, you can look at things and take the downer side, the negative side of it, or you can look at it on the positive side and try to take positives out of things that are negative. And that's kind of what I've been doing. And I think that mentality stems from me kind of just putting putting my faith in God and letting him show me where to go and how to deal with these situations. So I first of all want to thank you and Sal for helping me get there. I also want to thank you for having me on because this is like super fun. I love doing stuff like this. So it's awesome to be on the show. I probably would have just been, I don't know, vegging out upstairs, hanging out with my daughter or something. But this is kind of like a cool little fun, different thing to do on a Saturday morning. So, but yeah, that's the long-winded version of what I've been doing in the pandemic. I mean, it's literally hasn't, other than having to wear a mask everywhere, which I understand.
Right.
It really, other than that, it hasn't changed my wife and my family's lifestyle.
That's awesome. That is so awesome that you've made it through. And I know a lot of people have felt a lot more pain, especially if you're in service industry jobs or a lot of jobs that retail where you have to be out there in the public, and there was no public for months. So it's been a crazy year. And I mean, I have a lot of musician friends that are hurting because there's no place to play, and
Yeah.
everybody's to, playing on YouTube. Yeah, a lot of professionals now showing up on YouTube. And so the YouTube world has changed. This is where you and I connected. We connected in this drum community almost 4 years ago, I guess. Somewhere in the last 3 years, we both jumped into the community. And some of our friends are there. I just want to acknowledge Drumman 190 hi, and Sean Woodley hi, and Lori Jones hi, and CCM drummer Matthew hi, and Keith Scott, good morning. And I said hi to Brian. So thank you guys for being here today, and that's the community. When you came into the drumming community, I remember some of your early videos, one being the Stevie Winwood tune you did back in High Life, which you did an excellent job of, by the way. Excellent cover.
Thanks.
I really enjoyed that cover. That one. I got to do that one of these days. I haven't done that one. There's certain like holy grail covers for me. Like I don't touch the Rush. I don't touch the Led Zeppelin. I've done one Led Zeppelin. I did Kashmir, and that was about as far as I wanted to go because there's so many guys that do Led Zeppelin really well here that I don't want to touch on it. Hi Tate, I see Tate Berkey there. By the way, Tate Berkey lives not too far from you. He goes to Temple, and he lives somewhere.
Oh, cool.
So you guys should hook up someday.
Yeah.
He's a great young player. I don't know if you've seen any of his stuff. He does a lot of Chicago, Steely Dan.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Chicago, Steely Dan, Tower Power stuff. You guys should connect. You're in the same neighborhood. But when we started back then, the community was, that was kind of what we, it was really a fun community because there wasn't so many of the. There's just seems like the last 3 years it's gone to there's the drum cover people, and the drum cover people are never really going to get their subscriber base to grow like the Sinas and those of the world that were here 12 years ago when they were nothing. And of course they were a young girl playing drum covers at 13, somehow you get 1 million subscribers. Any girls out there, I'm glad you're getting empowered right now and all that stuff, and you get all the views. That's great, especially the less clothes you wear, I guess you get better views from what I've seen for some of the drummers out there, but there's some great drummers. I don't want to say anything bad about any of them, but we were doing drum covers just to have fun and have a lot of fun with this whole thing. So it was one of the things that came out of it that was a big deal to me was I got to play on your album because you found me and you asked me, hey, can you play a couple tracks? And so Kelly's got an album out there on Spotify. I guess Apple, iTunes, all those places probably, called Plastic Glasses. And I played on 2 of the songs. It's Better to Forget It and Then Would You. So check those out. Kelly wrote the whole album. He did it with a lot of his friends. He played a lot on it. I think he must have played on over half the album. I think he invited like guys like Jeff Holden played on it. I can't remember who else. Mm-hmm. But you want to share how that album's done since you've done this? And
yeah. So that project has gone through a couple different iterations. When I first started it, it was back in 2001, and we were actually a 4-piece band, and I was singing, playing guitar, and then I had buddies do bass, lead guitar, and drums. And so I wrote a good maybe 10 songs back then, and we were called Rive Blue Eyes. And then I moved to Texas, and it was kind of just me playing solo at coffee shops and whatnot. And I wrote another maybe 10 songs. That was called Eden Proxy, which is kind of everything that I do now is Eden Proxy, my email and all that stuff.
Right.
So then when I moved back to LA, I formed another band and turned it into Plastic Glasses, wrote another 10 or so songs. So this Plastic Glasses album is like those 30 some odd songs just kind of put into one album. And I basically, I think I wrote maybe, I want to say like 90% of all that material. And then I had friends like, write certain parts on guitar, or I have a really good buddy that did a couple bass lines that I could never replicate. So those types of things that I like to give credit for, because his bass really makes the song. It's nothing that I do. It's more his bass line.
Right.
So yeah, when I had like all of these songs, basically when I started the KMKanDrum channel, it was because I knew my wife was pregnant. We were going to have a baby. I kind of wanted to put all of my musical talent onto one place, so that when she's born, maybe when she has when she has kids and I have grandkids and they want to know all about grandpa, they can go to this YouTube channel and check out all the stuff that I've done. So it kind of is the same mentality with this Plastic Glasses album. I just kind of wanted to throw all the songs that I've written together into one spot. And then I was re-recording everything and starting to get into this drum community. And I was like, oh, I might as well reach out to a bunch of different guys and see if they want to be a part of this drum community or this album. And you, Jeff Holden, Rafa Correa,
Right. Yeah, Rafa. Yeah.
And Churdoy Drummer. Those you four are on the album. And then I've got a couple of guitar player friends and a couple of bass player friends to also contribute. And my cousin, she did some guitar parts as well. She's an amazing. She's Carlos Vega's daughter. Amazing musician as well.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you, when you were talking about this not too long ago. I don't know if it was on one of your shows. You were talking about documenting it for your grandkids, and of course, that's a lot closer to my reality of life. So, I mean, I have grandkids that watch me on Instagram in the morning. They say to their dad and their mom, hey, put Poppy on, and they watch. And I've got 2 of them live down the street from me, about 9 houses down the street. And they come over here all the time. And when Elliot comes in, he's 3. The first thing he says, Mimi Poppy drum, Mimi Poppy drum. That's been his thing for the last year. And he comes in and he just starts bashing on things. He has to play. And his older brother Asher was doing that at 8 months. So it's kind of interesting that that's the truth. I really feel like that's what I'm doing. I'm leaving a legacy of me here for others to see, because once it's been digitized, it will stay for a long time. Now, I don't know if it'll always be YouTube or what, but at least they'll have some memories of Poppy, and hanging out with Poppy and playing drums with Poppy. And a couple of my grandkids have helped me with some of my covers where they come out and they do the moving camera thing, which is always fun.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, it's interesting, but I really enjoyed doing those songs and getting to do that. And that's one of the things that opened up because of YouTube, you know. And when I started my YouTube channel, it was because I was out of work for 10 months and I was trying to reinvent myself into a new career or something. I didn't know what I was going to do. I thought maybe I was going to teach drum lessons. So I went full on to doing some lesson type things, talking about drums, a few covers for fun, and trying to get the drum lesson business up and running, which never really took off, even though I have a couple students still today. But, you know, it became, drum covers became a way of touching people, you know. So, and I don't know, I don't have a formula, to be honest. I just put a lot of material out and people find me because of that, you know. That's my little secret, but that's you know, just if you keep flooding it, eventually somebody will find you, like these people here in the comments. Thank you all. By the way, if anybody has a question, don't hesitate to ask a question. That way we have somewhere to go. Otherwise, I have to keep talking, and Kelly will have to keep talking without having direction, you know. So I'd love to get a question from any of you guys. So I know you just moved into a new studio. That's something just happened.
Yep.
So in the move of the new studio, I won some foam. I haven't put it up yet. It's over here on the thing. I'm at the Concert Tom kit, by the way, today. But so what are your hopes for the new studio, and what are you hoping to do with your YouTube now that you're back up and running and you've got it going again? And what's your new direction? Or maybe there's no new direction. It's just the same old direction. We just keep going in, you know?
Yeah, I think it's funny that you mentioned that you don't really have any real direction that you take your channel. And I think I'm pretty much the same way. I don't really have any, most of it is just on impetus. Like if I'm feeling something a certain day, I'll go that way. And if I feel something else, it's another. Like I just kind of go off on a whim. And I feel like this whole 3 or 4 years that I've been doing this channel, there's sort of maybe like some sort of vision as to what I want to happen with it. But really in the end, it's just I just love doing all the different things that I'm doing with the channel. So whether it's drum covers or interviews, or now I'm starting to really get into doing product reviews. Those are really fun for me. And doing the lessons and lesson by lessons, my take on lessons is I just kind of talk about my experience, and hopefully that it brings like a different angle into looking at something that probably has been regurgitated a million times on YouTube. So just, I guess, trying to put my spin on stuff that's already out there that we all know works, and just, you know, using this the same way that you use your voice on the drums to differentiate from other drummers and whatnot.
Yeah.
I'm trying to use my voice, my actual voice, when I'm, you know, in my perspective of teaching and reviewing stuff and interviewing and all that stuff. So it's kind of like, I guess my YouTube channel is just my perspective on the whole drumming culture and whatnot. And I feel like if I just keep doing that, it'll stay fun, it'll stay interesting. And, you know, I don't need to have 10, 20, 100,000, a million subscribers. If I'd rather have 1,000, 2,000 subscribers that I know are watching and are like super interested and are, you know, I'm kind of quality over quantity, I guess.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. I think that that's really where I've gone with my channel. If anything about my channel is it's the community aspect of it. You know, I want to be an encouragement to others, but I have to have fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I'm not having fun, then what good is this? You know, and when I've lulled off, and I haven't lulled off a lot, as everybody knows. Even when my son passed, I kind of jumped right back in playing. I think I needed to play. It was an outlet for me to just let out my emotions a lot of times. So, and I think that has a lot to do with it. As I've gotten older, and not wanting to play gigs. To be honest, I play in church. I have a church gig, and I play a couple times a month, and I love doing that, and I love being with the community, and that's all about community too. It's a very small church, intimate church, young church, a very young church. We're the oldest people in the church, by the way, so it's a very young church. I'm not doing it to be the superstar Christian drummer in town, which I did that for a while. I had 10 years where I was just subbing in all the churches, just playing, being the sub drummer. And I had one local church I would work at a lot, but I wasn't connected to any of it. And so when I moved to Florida, I lost all my connections because I lived in New Jersey for 40 years. My first 40 years of life was in New Jersey, and I had made all my musical connections in that 20-year period from the time I was in college till I left. So 20, 22 years. So I was known as somebody you would call for a club date or a wedding, we need a drummer, call Earl Bennett. He was one of the guys that we had called. Or I would get called in the Christian scene down there, to play different groups I played in and stuff, or playing in churches and stuff. So I had like 3 or 4 different scenes I was playing. I was playing blues, I was playing rock, I was playing weddings, I was making money. As soon as I moved to Florida, I knew no musicians and 0 musicians. So I had to get connected again. So the first place I connected was a church. And that's where I met a lot of musicians that played on my wife's album, because right around that time, I had just bought equipment to build a studio in New Jersey. And I had a 3-car garage converted into a studio. And
Nice.
all of a sudden, we were moving. And I moved my studio from it was actually a 2-car garage, just a 3-car garage. 2-car garage into a studio, and I moved it into an 11 by 11 bedroom where I recorded my wife's album, Toward the Lamb, which is out there, and it's available on YouTube, iTunes, everywhere. By the way, we never sold it. I gave away 1,000 copies of it almost. I think I have maybe 30 left. So it's been all over the world. It gets sold on eBay regularly. I find it on eBay, somebody selling the copy of the CD somewhere. So it's never me selling. I made any real money selling CDs, just so you know. But we do have an iTunes I realized in 2015, if I didn't put it into a digital format, and spend the $60, and put it in CD Baby and put it up there, it would be lost. It was going to get lost because CDs were not going to be around. So I did that, and it's out there on YouTube. And, but that was like my big work. That was my biggest work, because as my wife was working on her PhD, I was working on her album. And I spent 5 years really on it, 2.5 years really recording it. And it took about 5 years to get it, the whole thing done. It took, and actually it was 15 years in the making. So you want to talk about one of those Abraham moments, where Abraham and Sarah, are waiting for the baby. That we started this project in 1990, and it took till 2005 to get it out. So it took 15 years technically to get the whole thing done. But once I got it done, now I've got a studio. Now what do I do? So I do some local projects and stuff. And in 2017, a friend of mine had told me about 5-7 years prior to that, said, why don't you do drum covers? And I said, I don't still know how to use cameras. I don't know what to do. It wasn't as hard as I thought. So it really wasn't that hard. Just want to say hi to a few people. Stuart. Hi, Stuart. Let's see. We've got a couple questions. Let's take a question right now. Stuart said, Kelly, what was the process you went through for tracking your project? Were all the musicians in the same room? Did you send files to individuals? Also, where did you begin? Drums, bass, etc., I think.
So yeah, I wish I could say that the pandemic kept me from keeping everybody together, but I did it before the pandemic, and basically I'm in Philly, and I'm kind of like I'm in sort of like the same situation that you were in when you went to Florida, where I grew up in Los Angeles. That's where I know everybody. And then coming out here to Philly, I actually went to New York first, and was able to play some music. I was in a cover band there. And then I moved down to Philly, and musically, I don't know anybody out here. And I felt like, it's not so bad. Philly's known as a musician town. Should be able to meet some people. And I kind of tried when we first got here, and it's just like it's real niche out here. And if you're not into those niches, then you're kind of stuck. So I'm not really into um, hardcore metal or hardcore hip hop, which is basically the two big genres out here. I thought that there might be some R&B that I can maybe get into, but not so much. So yeah, I'm kind of like just out here, and that's basically why I started the YouTube channel, is because I couldn't really connect with any musicians out here. So I was like, oh, I might as well do a drum cover, throw it up there, see what happens. And then one by one, guys from the community would introduce themselves, and it kind of went off from there. But as far as the album goes, basically what I did was I recorded everything that I could record. So I would say I think there's like 30 tracks on the album. I probably did the drums for 20 of them. And then the ones that I didn't have drums for, that guys like Earl wanted to be a part of, I would do like a scratch drum programmed and then record on top of that. And I would send the whatever, like for instance, I gave Earl, if what were the two songs? Then Would You, and then
It's Better to Forget It, and then
It's
Would You.
Better to Forget It. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I basically had everything recorded for Earl and sent him the track, and he pretty much just played on top of it, sent me the raw drums back, and I had to try to splice everything together, make sure that it was tight and on time. And Earl's tracks and I believe Jeff Holden's tracks were like right on the money. I think I had to do a little bit of tweaking the sound for Churdoy Drummer. His stuff came in a little bit hot, so I had to do a couple of mixing tricks. And then Rafa was on the electric drum set, so that was perfect. I was trying to go for an all acoustic sound, but he really identified with a couple of the songs, and he really wanted to do them. And I was more than happy because Rafa, he's not so much in the community anymore because he's got two rambunctious kids and things are going crazy for him. But yeah, so pretty much I would have basically a full track minus whatever it was the musician was going to be playing, and I would just send it to them, and then they would send it back to me.
Yeah. That's what I remember pretty much was you just sent us the tracks and we kind of played our stuff, and then we send you, I might have sent you a couple versions so you had something to play with, but
Yeah.
it's pretty much the way albums are made today, unfortunately. Getting people in a room to play is just a lost. Even like I work on, my church has got a project called Paradise Hymns, and I've played on a couple of the tracks. There's other drummers in the church, so it's a very creative, artistic community, and we don't play in the room together. And we have a room, like I have a room to play together, but it's just not the way young people make music today. Everybody, I mean, that's another interesting aspect of it, is how we make music today. Is usually we make it in sections and we write parts for sections. And the interesting thing is that I'm learning is the great session players, that's what they thought up parts. I just released something yesterday. I don't know if I probably didn't see it, but it was a clip from Andy Newmark. The famous, you ever heard of Andy Newmark? He was the drummer that played on John Lennon's Double Fantasy album,
Oh, yeah, no.
He did with Yoko, and he had that hit Just Like Starting Over. And Andy Newmark was a New York session drummer back in the 70s, early 80s. He used to play with Roxy Music. He played with a lot of people.
Oh, cool.
Carly Simon. He did the song Anticipation. But I was watching an interview with him on a different channel, John DeChristopher's channel. Check his channel out. I'm going to keep throwing to him because John was nice enough to let me use the clip of Andy. Because Andy was talking about how he did not play on Carly Simon's song, You're So Vain, which is another famous Carly Simon song. but Jim Gordon played on it, and why Jim Gordon played on it. And when he told the story, one of the things that was really apparent to me was he said Jim Gordon could play that song 30 times the same way over and over again, unless the producer said, well, change this or change that, and he would change on a dime. See, that was the thing a studio musician had, was the ability to remember and play the parts over and over again, and in the pocket and in the groove and solid, and knew their parts. Well, that's what we're trying to do today in modern recording, except for we're doing it this way. We record something and we go, I found a part, play that. All right, let's stop. Let's record the chorus section. Let's do this part here. And we're very deliberate, especially in drum parts, especially in Christian music, where it's like a lot of Christian music is that 1, 4, 5, 6, 2 chord progression all the time. And it almost like never changes. But the only thing that does change is the drums. The drums go from tribal to build to groove, back to tribal, breakdown, build it up, groove it out, 2 choruses, then you're finished, and break down again. It's like there's like a little formula or something. And it seems like music has become extremely formulaic, but music was formulaic back in the day. They just played it with a group of musicians all together being in the same formula. That's the Nashville thing. They had the ability to do that, So it's kind of interesting how things have changed. That's what I always love about that kind of stuff. Let me say hi to a couple more. We got a couple more questions. Hi to 2112 Drums, who I've not seen in a long time. You've grown up a lot, 2112 Drums, since you won that cymbal of mine. I mean, you're probably about like 90 feet tall now. You were 12 when you were around when you won that cymbal. I have not heard from you in a long time. Everything is well. Matthew CCM Drummer said, getting over 1,000 subs in less than 4 years is very impressive. How did you do that, Kelly?
It's pretty much luck, being blessed. I have a couple of good buddies of mine. For a while, I was stuck around the 300, 400, 500 sub count. And then I started doing some editing with a buddy of mine that I'd played in bands with back in the day. And he's actually, he's a digital marketer. So he does digital marketing for all kinds of different industries and whatnot. And I pretty much convinced him to start his own YouTube channel, doing guitar lessons and reviews and all that stuff. And so I help him doing that channel, and I do all the editing, and we kind of brainstorm on different topics and ideas that he can make videos on. So I'm kind of sort of like a co-producer of the channel, I guess. But yeah, I think he started back in, it's going to be a year now that he's had his channel up, and he got to, I want to say like 4,000 or 5,000 subs within 7 or 8 months. And as much as I would like to say that it was content driven, I don't think anyone in their right mind can get to 4,000 or 5,000 subscribers just on content alone. And that goes to his skill in marketing. So once that happened, I was like, well, you have to help me out with my channel. So basically, he got a couple of his buddies to check out my channel and see all the things that I was doing wrong as far as like keywords and SEO and all of that stuff. And yeah, they did a little something here or there, and I went from like 400 or 500 up to about 1,000. And then yeah, they didn't show me how to do any of that, so I'm probably going to go back to them and find out like what their secret is, because that also shows me that it's not just content driven, that there's kind of like a science behind it. So yeah, it's basically it's just being lucky to have lucky to have some friends that know what they're doing when it comes to this whole YouTube thing. Yeah, and then I just try to keep
something really
putting
important. It's not content driven. There is a back end to this that some people know the secret of. Okay.
Yeah.
My own success on YouTube, because I grew since 2017, I grew from 30 subscribers. I was on it in 2006, put up a couple videos a year pretty much for myself to watch, you know, Vic Firth covers and things like that for the first 4 years. So that doesn't really even count as far as I'm concerned. It wasn't until 2017 when I really tried. I did my first talking show, which was about my experience playing in Nashville with John Hammond replacing me. And then I did a drum cover of a Chicago tune called Beginnings. And these things were all just things I did. And then I did 5 basic beats for playing in church, being a church drummer. That was while I was out of work. That was April of that year, 2017. And the funny thing was, it was finding the drum community with Drum Covers by Bill, who's now here, so hi, Drum Covers by Bill, and finding Drum Man 190, you know, and those guys finding me and winning their first contest. You know, that was the first thing I did. I went from 100 subscribers to 200 to 400 subscribers. There was a jump in like a 3-month period. And then the goal of having to get 1,000 subscribers, thanks to guys like 2112 winning my ride cymbal. I'm putting a ride cymbal up for free, you know, putting out so much content that I got to 1,000 within that first year of doing it. But I really think the reason why I've continued to grow is because of those couple crazy videos I did, like the Peisty cymbal video and the playing in church drummer video, which has almost 60,000 views and continues to get pushed out there because people search for that. How do I learn how to play drums in church? And they find my video, and people hit it and then they come, and then they hit it and then they come. So I've had a steady subscribers, nothing blowing out the water or anything, but just steady. So it just keeps growing each year. And that's been my only, that's not a secret. That's just how it gets done. I have a good friend of mine from college who plays piano and drums. He has an Instagram channel, and he puts up 51-second videos pretty much of himself playing drums. And he did this one video of Dave Brubeck's Take 5, the 5/4 beat, da da ba bum 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 beat ba bum boom boom beat ba bum. He did that. He had 100 subscribers. This was this year. It was in 2020. He had 100 subscribers. He was going up like one a month for a while there. So it was like 120, 130 or something. It was not going anywhere. That video got in something. He got 750,000 views on it, and now he's got 5,000 subscribers. So I wrote him, I said, hey, Tony, you can monetize. He goes, no, I can't monetize. I don't have enough hours. Nobody's watching my videos. My videos are short. Nobody watches them. You have to have 40,000. I think it's 4,000 hours or 40,000 hours. I can't remember. I think it's 4,000 hours, isn't it?
It's a lot.
And 1,000 subscribers to get monetized. So he still can't monetize anything, but he's got over 5,000 subscribers, you know, and I'm still edging my way towards 5,000. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. Drum covers don't pay the rent. You can't make money off this. The only thing you make money off of is when you talk on camera and it's your content. If somebody else owns it, you get nothing. So get used to that. Do it for fun. Do it because you love it, you know, which goes back to what we were talking about. Why are we doing our drum channels? We're doing it for fun because we love it. I think product reviews are really cool. I think talking about your equipment's really cool. That's what a lot of guys watch this show for. They want to hear about my new 22-inch ride cymbal right here, my 22-inch 2002 ride, which I put in one video. This week I had a strange kind of week where my wife was doing something during the evening. So I made a cover of Van Morrison's Moon Dance. It was all ride, ding, 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 blocked, immediately blocked. It was like, no, you will not up, you will not pass go, you will not collect $200, or they will not collect $200 because that's not how much they might have made off of it if somebody was allowed to watch it. You know what I mean? So, but I do have some videos coming out this week. I took yesterday off, so I made some videos yesterday with the new ride cymbal for those of you. So I hope that answers that question, CCM Drummer. Drumming 190 asks the question, what's the goals for our channel? I think we've kind of talked on that too. I don't know if we have any goals, do we? I mean, you're going to do some reviews. I felt bad for you about the stick bag. That was kind of, I mean, I really felt bad that now you're putting that up for a contest, you know. I would rather win the stick bag over foam, but, you know, the foam's going to work out. It's not like I'm not going to find a place for it in this crazy studio I have. So, but, you know, that's the kind of thing that is helpful, you would think. But I see guys do those videos too, and they get 200 or 300 views, and then it takes years for them to get the big views. You know, if it's
Yeah.
a somebody wants, like I got this little fake GoPro camera from China that I think it's got like 3,000 or 4,000 views on it. It's a terrible camera, by the way. When I said it was okay, but it's really a terrible camera. I can't even use it. It's that bad. So, but
Yeah, it's so funny. Like I went to Amazon to try to look for a GoPro alternative because they're like $300-400 a pop, and then
yeah,
these fake ones are like $50-60. I mean, when you're thinking about price, it's a no-brainer. I bought one and it was like complete crap. And there's it's like 4.5-star reviews. There's like 1,000 reviews saying how great it is. And it's just like, no, it's really bad. I guess I just would rather spend the $300 on a
right.
GoPro and not have to deal with that.
I still haven't bought a GoPro. I do all my videos
They're
with
great.
my iPhone and
Oh,
a DSLR I've had for like 7-8 years from the last company I worked at. So I mean, that's how I do it because I don't want to spend $300 on a GoPro. I'd rather buy another ride cymbal. Apparently, I could have bought
yeah.
a GoPro. Why buy a
See,
GoPro?
that's what I should be doing. I should be spending because I have a Sony A6000, which I think is like the introductory mirrorless camera. I mean, it's great for the introductory, but I mean that thing's like $600. That's like 2K custom crashes right there. I should be
Yeah,
reprioritizing where I put my money.
but it's good to have a nice camera. I mean, a nice camera makes things better. I think you know what I mean. And so I mean, and more cameras. Now I will tell you, my friend Chadwick Perry, who's been on the show, and he's a guy that nobody. I want everybody to go to Chad's channel, Chadwick Perry. Check him out. He's got a lot of content. He's really creative, and one of the things he does is this green screen stuff. He basically puts a green screen behind him. He swipes the videos off of YouTube and then puts them in his video of him doing the track, which is great, But I used to think to myself, I don't have a program to steal the video off of my computer, and do this. So when we were talking on the channel, I had him on, we were talking, he said to me, he goes, no, the way I do it is I just basically use the record feature on my iPad or my iPhone and I record the video and then I make it a movie and then I put it in the program and I just drag it in. I use the greens, the keyer, custom thing and boom, 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 and put it in there and it finds the green and does its thing. I sync it up. Well, that is really stinking easy to do. It made sense. So I've been making videos now with a green screen just for the heck of it, just to have fun with it, just to do something different, And it's
Yeah, I
not.
saw your Aretha Franklin Instagram post. That's cool.
Yeah, I did that yesterday actually. The one I did on Instagram today dropped on there, and it was a really good video. A lot of times the problem with YouTube is the video is such crap. I mean, it's old tape or film, or videotape or something, and they've I did one with the song "Ride, Captain Ride" upon the mystery ship. It's an old song. Ride, Captain, ride upon your mystery ship. Anyhow, some of the old guys on the show will remember the song, but the video to it was really bad. It was really bad. So it looks really bad on the green screen, but you get the effect. They're there, and they're called the Blues Image or something. I think that's what they were called. It's a one-hit wonder. I love one-hit wonders. That's my thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna have to talk to you and Chadwick about that because I just did a cover where I'm playing drums and singing of I don't know if you're familiar with Oingo Boingo at all, but it's their song On the Outside. And basically what I did for the vocal part is I kind of in one corner I put a window pane and then I put myself behind the window pane and I tried to cut myself out or the background out of my image
Right.
and then put an image of me being outside, like I'm on the outside. but you can totally see the outline. I totally need a green screen. I need to get like into that whole thing because once I did that video,
Yeah.
and I'll probably release it pretty soon. I was like, wow, yeah, you could totally do so much fun, cool stuff with that green screen. So I want to learn more about that.
I mean, guys like Tony, you know, all squatchy drums now. He used to be all classic drum
Oh yeah,
covers
that's right. Yeah.
forever, you know. So there, and drum covers by Bill does green screen stuff. I've seen some. He puts some stuff behind him. I think it's green screen what he does. He puts images behind him. There's something to adding a little more that keeps people more attentive to it, especially when we find some really colorful stuff. You know, the Aretha thing was it's such a colorful video. I mean, it's all like 1970 mod. You know, the mod look.
Yeah.
You know that they like
Yeah.
if that kind of chick, she would have a mini skirt on, but she's not. She's just very soulful, you know. But it definitely had that kind of vibe. That's that early 70s, late 60s vibe thing going on to it. And I just thought it was kind of cool. And when I shot the video, I actually took this crash cymbal out and put the camera right there. So I'm shooting right here, which for a long time I got this Chase lounge here that my wife bought. We bought for our bedroom. I bought the double chair that reclined, and she bought the Chase lounge. But after about a year and a half, she hated it. So it went from our bedroom to her library to eventually ending up in my office. And it's been bounced around the house. She won't let me sell it, so it just sits here. It's the best bass trap for this room I've ever had because this room. It's all cinder block walls, and I have nothing on the walls. That's what I mean. I got to take the foam, and I think I'm going to put it on some kind of wood and hang them up on the walls, you know, because, I mean, I could glue it to the cinder block, but that's a long story in itself. But, yeah. So,
well, you know what you should do? For my studio, I took those ceiling tiles that you would see at like corporate offices, the ones that are kind of like foamy.
Yeah.
So they sell those either 1 by 1 foot or 1 by 2 feet.
Right.
So what I would do is I would take foam and put it on top of that, staple it to the ceiling tiles, and then I wrapped fabric around. My wife works for a design company, so she has access to all this fabric. I mean, you can go to Michael's or whatever and just buy a roll of fabric and roll the thing over, and it looks nice too. And then you can just put it on the ceiling or on the walls or whatever. That's pretty much what I did. And I mean, you see, I have brick walls.
Yeah.
But when I'm recording, you can't hear any echo, any reverberation. I mean, it's pretty dead, and it's because of those foam with the acoustic tiles behind it wrapped in this fabric. It works amazing.
Well, you know, there is a lot of science to doing this stuff, doing a studio. My main room, I had no science at all. I basically bought some of that foam and I just put it all over these little diamonds all over my studio. And on my wall near my drums, I had this rug hanging there that I had in my old house. I had a rug hanging on the wall, and I had a board attached to it at the top, and it screwed on and it hung but the rug was giving this really weird honk to my snare drums. I couldn't figure out where this 400, 500K honk was coming from. And one day I'm sitting there going, I gotta get rid of this honk. It sounds terrible on everything I record in here. And I'm looking at it and I just sensed, take the rug down. And I just took the rug down. I put up a few of those tiles I had and changed the room. The room went to crap to good. And now I record vocals out in the middle of the room, and I don't have to put one of those little things in front of your face, you know, and just sitting in the middle of the room, it sounds right. The whole room is just right. You know, it's not a square room. It's got some angled walls. It's got some foam in it. It's got a carpeted rug. It's got 40 Years of Modern Drummer magazine in a bookshelf. You know, it's like three rows deep, you know, and I think that's part of the sound of the room out there, you know. But when you get into a room with cinder block or brick and there's nothing on the walls, it's hard to get the sound out, even if it's not square. This is not a square room either. And actually, behind me is a bunch of bookshelves, but that didn't help this room. So I've got duvets hanging up there. I've got I got a black screen. My son gave me this lighting kit. He was going to do some videos, and he gave me this lighting kit in 17, I guess it was. And I had the lights hanging up here on the stands, and I've got a green screen, a black screen, and a white screen, but I've never done anything with it. You know, I just use the light, use the lights for everything. And I have hung, my lights are so archaically cheap too. That's the other thing about my drum room, is that I basically have big 125-watt light bulbs in those lamps you buy at Home Depot, you know, for under your car, you know, those car lamps. I'm hanging and squinched every place, you know. So it works, you know. I haven't really spent a lot of money on the camera side of this. That's the whole thing. I did YouTube on the cheap, pretty much, completely on the. So hey Keith, you're here. Keith says tried the green screen, but the program I was using compressed the sound and ruined the video. I think the key here is I don't use any of the sound from the videos that I'm doing, and I don't use any of the sound from all my sounds. And I'm sure you do this too, Kelly. It goes into your DAW. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah. So yep, totally. The only time I ever used sound from the video and it actually worked was I did a cover of an NXS song, and so what happened was all my sound goes through my DAW. I got a 8-channel interface, and then it goes to Logic, so I use Logic Pro, and I basically, I mean, the drums are amazing. The room is amazing. I just put a little bit of EQ, even less compression. And then sometimes I'll gate the toms if they're too loud. But that's pretty much it. And yeah, the between the preamps, the drums, the room, it just sounds awesome. And yeah, then I take that audio. I usually just do MP3s. I don't even do waves. And then I'll throw it into, I use Premiere Pro. I'm a graphic designer, so I get the Adobe, all the programs for free. Or not free, but they all come in the same one package.
Not for free, not Adobe, man.
Yeah, definitely not for free. I wish. But yeah, I was using iMovie when I first started. And you know, it's a good program. Definitely if you want to keep the budget side low, you can totally make all of your videos on iMovie. I thought it was great. But the thing was the more angles I started using, the slower iMovie got. And with Premiere, I mean, I can do 4 or 5 angles and it's still going real time. I have a really good computer, so I can do everything in full screen and there's hardly any lag ever, even if I put effects onto it and whatnot. So Premiere, I love. Logic, I love. The only thing is I got to manually sync everything together. Their sync, their auto sync, not so great. The last couple of videos I did the auto sync, and like I'll hit the crash and then I'll try to cut on that crash. And then the next cut, I'm like hitting the crash again. And it's like, But in any case, to answer the question, yeah, I use the DAW, and the only time that I ever used the audio from the camera was in that NXS song, and it was slightly off. So when I hit the snare, it was almost like a gate, and it actually recreated the gate in that NXS song. So that was the only time I ever kept the audio from a video source.
That's interesting. Yeah, I find that I don't use any of the sounds from the cameras. They just don't get used. Maybe I did on one thing, and I think it had to do with a tambourine overdub I did on an Elton John song. I think I did Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me. I did 2 versions of it too, and there was one where I decided I was going to play tambourine, and for some reason the tambourine I didn't mix it properly. I realized I didn't mix it in my mix, and I wanted to just do it. And I realized it was on the camera of that. So off of that, it was good enough in the room. Going into the camera, I had the effect of the tambourine, and it worked. But other than that, I can't think of a time that I ever used the audio from the cameras at all. And I don't use. I know a lot of guys like record their drums into their camera, and that's a different thing than doing it in the DAW. I mean, I'm notorious for using lots of reverb and really having a huge sounding drum thing. And that's because I'm throwing in my DAW. I've got a mixed bus compression. I've got my whole thing set up. By the way, I did a video on this, those of you that are out there like Keith, on how I make drum covers. And I recommend you watch. It's 5-part series on how I make drum covers so you can see there's a way to do it. But there's a really cool feature in Final Cut that allows you to sync your audio to a video. And then there's another feature in Final Cut that allows you to do a multi-cam edit. And it works really well with 2 cameras. I've done it with 4. It gets a little bogged down sometimes. But with 2 cameras, you basically, I put the audio on one of the cameras. So I take the camera and I sync it. So I have a synced camera mic, camera audio one. I'll call it number 1. And then I take that and I marry it to the other camera. And then I do my multicam cuts. And I do this so fast because I'm doing multicam cuts there, not layering it and lining them up and putting everything together and all that stuff. I just go blah, blah. I'm like listening to the music and I'm making my cuts with the music. So like I hear the crash coming, I go, boom, and I hit the crash, other camera. And I'll go back and fix a few things because you have to do that. But I found out yesterday that if I put the effect of keyer on on the green screen camera, if I put the keyer on that from the start and I make all those cuts, when I drop the other video below it, it shows up. It shows up perfectly. Once I lock it in, it's locked in there. Once I set that video that I just took off of iTunes or I took off of YouTube and brought in through, AirDrop, I did it on my iPad and dropped it on my computer. All of a sudden it just locks up. Boom. Once I had set it up and locked, it's there and it's the whole movie. So it worked really well. I was shocked. Final Cut's great. I think it's great for the semi-pro guy who's not doing what you're doing with Adobe. Premiere's much more sexy and much more. It's the difference between Pro Tools and Logic, truthfully. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do I need Pro Tools? I'm not doing pro sessions. It's like, do I need a Neumann mic? No, I didn't need to spend $4,000 on a Neumann mic. It's not really important to me. I have 2 Rode tube microphones that I use on vocals. I've got another Audio Technica 4033 that I use on girl vocals. I've got a bunch of mics that are dynamic I can use for recording guitar amps, like a 57 or a E109, E409. I think it's E409E or whatever they call it, the Sennheiser one. That works great on that. I've got all kinds of drum mics. I've got all kinds of extra mics hanging around. But do I need a Neumann? No, I don't. I don't need Pro Tools. You don't need that to make great music today. It's just not needed. But a good DAW will make your life easier doing drum covers. I will say that. Unless you're Chadwick Perry, then everything on his iPad.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, he doesn't use GarageBand. He uses Artura, I think it's called. It's a program designed for iPad, a pro audio program for iPad. And he's gotten really good at it. And I got to tell you, and there you are, Chad. Reaper is free. Yes, Reaper is free for computers. I agree with you on that. I'm not a Reaper guy. I bought Logic. The funny thing was my wife works at a university. So when I bought my new computer, my new iMac that I've been using 3 years ago, I bought for $200, $299. I bought the package with Final Cut and Logic Pro for that price. Educational discount because she's a teacher. I was like, all right,
awesome.
That's all I needed. I've got the whole 9 yards now. So
yeah, you're set.
Rock and roll. Any other questions out there, guys? Anything? Mixcraft also. Yeah, I never use Mixcraft. Logic just became easy. I mean, you use Logic too, don't you, Kelly? I think.
Yeah.
I mean, Logic's just stupid easy. I mean, it's not worth it.
I think it's like it's all dependent on the user. Some people use PC, some people use Mac for completely different reasons. The UI, to me at least, on Logic, because I've used them, not, I don't want to say all, but I've used a lot of them. I've used Cubase, Pro Tools, Reason, Logic, what's the Adobe one? Audition. What's the free one on PC?
Reaper?
Not Reaper. I haven't used Reaper, but there's another one that's almost
Cakewalk?
No.
Remember the days of Cakewalk? Oh.
Yeah, I've used Cakewalk also.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're all pretty much the same thing. They just look different. So whichever one works for you. I just ended up, GarageBand is another one. So I started on GarageBand, and it's just the natural progression to go to Logic. Same thing with iMovie. iMovie and Final Cut are kind of just like, one's the basic, one's the one on steroids. So just Logic to me works the best.
Yeah. My son got me into Logic. I was using Digital Performer. I did my wife's album on Digital Performer, and trying to keep up with all the upgrades to Digital Performer. And then my son had to use Logic in school, so he got a copy of Logic, and that's where I got in Logic 8. And then it went to online. I got 9 from a friend. Actually, one of his friends gave me 9 for free, but that was the mistake. He worked at an Apple store. So every time I wanted to upgrade anything, I had to call him up and get his Apple ID to get on and fix it. So when I got the new computer, that was my Mac Mini. When I got the new computer, I said, no, I'm buying my own version. I don't want to deal with this headache ever again. So my Mac Mini stuck on, OS 10.2 and can't go anywhere. It's still got Logic on there, and it still works. My Mac Mini, I had a Mac Mini Server 2011, which is a great Mac Mini. It's probably the best Mac Mini they ever made was that one. It has 2 hard drives in it. But I could still run my studio on it. If that went down, I could actually run it. I could pull that in and make it work. But it was just getting too slow with video. It got really slow with the video stuff. So I don't know. Macs, the good thing about Macs, I'll tell you, Mac versus PC is Macs will last 8 years, 7, 8 years. Then you'll start to go, okay, I got to upgrade. I don't have a choice, So, yeah. But let's talk a little bit about your drums, because I know these guys love listening to equipment, and I love talking about equipment. So you just got a new kit. You've always been a DW guy on YouTube, but maybe you didn't always play DW. So tell us about your drum, your equipment. And we never talked about your uncle Carlos, which I would love to talk to you about. So
sure,
you got a few more minutes. It is an hour, so I don't know what your timing frame is, where you're at today. So let me know if it's too long. We can,
I definitely have time to talk a little bit about drums and my uncle. They kind of are one and the same anyway. So I started off on pots and pans, probably like everybody else on here.
Mm-hmm.
And my uncle, who was at the time playing for James Taylor, he basically is the reason why I play drums. Obviously, the first time I ever went to a concert, I was backstage for James Taylor, and I look on the stage and I see my uncle playing, and then there's 5,000-6,000 people at I think it was the Greek Theater in Hollywood.
Was Lee Sklar still playing at the time? Jimmy Johnson.
No, I think Jimmy Johnson was playing at the time. I think Lee just left.
Right.
And he's got an awesome channel. I've been checking out his videos. They're like so interesting. A lot of insight into all the background and context of all the things that he's been. It's so awesome.
I've been following him since he was like about 10,000 subscribers. Beginning of the pandemic, he went from Facebook to YouTube. And I was actually following him before he had anything on YouTube, because he did something about Jeff Porcaro about 7, 8 years ago, where he had JR on and Greg Bissonette, and he asked, it was like Jeff's birthday, I think, or something. And he asked a question like, what do you remember about Jeff Porcaro? And I think I found that and I subscribed to his channel. Then all of a sudden the pandemic hit and he started doing a video a day, and he went from nothing to like 150,000, whatever he's got now. God only knows. But his stories are incredible. I love stories, so I'm with you on that. So
yeah,
his channel now. So go ahead, tell us Carlos' story and why. Was he playing DW drums at that point?
He was. Yeah, he switched from Gretsch to DW. I want to say in the early goings of DW. He might have been maybe one of the first 5 or 6 guys to get endorsed by DW. I think along with guys like Tommy Lee and Stephen Perkins.
Danny's one of the early ones too.
Yeah.
Danny had,
so he
but I know he switched back to Gretsch before he stopped playing, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, he always like at his house. That was the kit that he had set up. He didn't have a DW set up. He had his yellow Gretsch set up. That was like his favorite drum set ever. And in fact, I think he even, I don't know if I should be saying this or not, but even when he was endorsed by DW and touring around the world, I still think he used his Gretsch and his Ludwig snares. So I don't think he ever used the DW snares whenever he was like, I don't know about in studio, but definitely when he was touring, he was always using either a Gretsch or a Ludwig snare.
Yeah, all those guys in LA did that. That's not a secret. It's Jeff did that. Vinny was doing that. They all had their thing. Even Steve Gadd, when he first started with Yamaha, had his Ludwig Superphonic. It was like they didn't tell him not to play the snare. Even Buddy Rich did that. I mean, this has been the whole thing about getting an endorsement is, this like you're going to use just their drums was never the case with the pro drummers. They always used what they wanted to use to get what they needed, and that was Buddy Rich is famous. He was playing Slingerland drums at the time. There's a Buddy Rich album with him playing Slingerland drums, and he's got a 5 snare drum on it. And the Bud Slingerland, the owner of Slingerland at the time, got so pissed that this picture ended up on that album cover, But that was the way it was. Those guys played what they wanted to play, get their sound. So it's just, but keep going. I don't want to stop you in your great DW.
Yeah, so
DW. So let's get to DW. So
yeah, I when I first started playing, and he had heard from, I think my dad or maybe my aunt had told him that I had made a Tupperware drum set at home. He basically, the next day that he was in town, he took me and we went to Guitar Center in Hollywood, which I think was probably the only guitar center in the world at that time, back in, I don't know, I want to say 93 or 94 or whatever, when they first started to do retail. And it was funny because he had just shaved his mustache. He was known for as much for his mustache as his drumming. And we went to Guitar Center and we were looking at all the different drums and whatnot. And me being just a young kid, I want the bright red one. It was a Pearl Export. I didn't know anything. So I think my dad had given him maybe like $500 or $600 to get me a drum set. And we ended up buying that thing. And we went to the counter. I'll never forget this. We went to the counter, and the guy is helping us out. He doesn't recognize my uncle at all. And then so my uncle goes to pay for the stuff, and he gives him a credit card, and he gives him his ID, and the guy takes the ID, and he's like, "Are you Carlos Vega?" And my uncle's like super humble. And he's like, yeah. He's like, "Oh my God, is there anything else I can do for you? Anything you need?" The tone completely changed. And I saw that and I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Yeah. He gave him extra, like started giving him anything that he could possibly give him for free, sticks, heads, whatever. And he wanted him to sign the head and all of that stuff. And just seeing that as a young kid, it's just like, wow, this is crazy. He's just my uncle to me,
Right.
So yeah, every time I went back to Guitar Center, that guy, I forgot his name, but he would just like kind of drop what he was doing and take me, and whatever I needed, he would take care of me and stuff. He'd give me the employee discount and all that stuff. It's crazy how a little bit of fame changes the way that people treat you and whatnot. So it's kind of like a good and a bad thing, right? Because I wish that people would just be like that with each other, no matter who they are. But it was just like a crazy thing for me to witness. I'll never forget it. And yeah, that was my first drum set, was an Export Pro. I had that for probably about 4 or 5 years. And I basically had to prove to my uncle that I was serious about drums, which I think I did a pretty good job. Like, I got into the Eagle Rock Jazz Band, which is pretty famous jazz band back then. My uncle was part of that jazz band. He
Wow.
took them all over the country, won a bunch of awards and whatnot. So yeah, about 10 years after he, no, about 20 years after he graduated, I was in that jazz band. I got in there. Never had lead chair because there's always someone more serious about the drums than I was.
Right.
I was just kind of one of those natural talent type of guys that just relied on his talent, never really practiced. So there were guys that were just practicing all the time, all the time. And I'm a big hockey guy, as you know. So I
Hmm.
played hockey when I was growing up. Actually probably played more hockey than I did drums growing up.
I
So,
did that.
my time was split. Really?
Oh yeah, I was a big hockey guy as a kid. Big hockey guy as a kid. New York
That's
Rangers.
awesome. Did you play at all?
I played ice hockey all through high school in intramural. I mean, our high school didn't have hockey at that point. This was the 70s, okay? But there was
Yeah.
a skating rink, Shrewsbury Ice, and I used to play on the Long Branch Exchange Club hockey team. I was the goalie. I was a goalie. And I played there freshman through senior year. And so I was playing ice hockey. I played street hockey. I played rollerblade hockey. I did all that. My brother still is a hockey nut. I left it. My brother's 9 years younger than me. Left the hockey thing on him because when I got to college, it was either hockey or music, and I chose the music route and sold off all the gear, and stayed into the Rangers, and then they won the cup in '94, and that was the end of it. I was like, well, I don't need to see him again because in 50 years they're going to get it. What does it matter? Why should I care anymore? So that
Yeah.
was it. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
so that's basically I was never the lead chair. I was always second chair in the jazz band. And then I started playing in punk bands and rock bands and whatnot, and gigging all over Hollywood. And so yeah, he saw that I
Late
was
'90s
pretty
deal
serious.
back. So you're in Hollywood, late '90s. This is Green Day. This is all those bands, Weezer, and got all the. I don't know all
Yeah.
the punk. My son used to know all that stuff, but I mean, I have a good friend of mine who used to be a drum tech with Green Day. Mike Fasano, who's been on here. He's done drum tech with a lot of those guys in LA. But so that was your scene. You were in the punk thing at that point. Did you ever do anything?
Yeah.
Did you ever do what was the one that they used to do all the time? Uh, that one, what was it called? What was that tour called? Warp Tour.
There
Did you
was
ever
the Warp Tour. Yeah. Well, so we I was in a band called the Mormons, and our
Mormon?
their whole shtick
Or
was they were a punk band. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we would wear
not
the
the
bike helmets.
and you only needs a tie. You'll be fine.
Yeah, yeah.
Short shirt and a
Tie.
tie. You're like, you got it.
Yeah. That's how we dressed, and we would go out and play. And the one thing that they would do is they would play all their songs on what they would call the mobile unit. So I would have quads.
Right.
The guitar player would have a one of those little Marshall amps. The bass player would have his pig nose amp, and the singer would have a bullhorn. And we would go out and we would play at all these different places, try to cause controversy where we were a punk band and whatnot. And one of the times we actually went to Warp Tour and Coachella, and we would play in the parking lot, and we got just as much people in front of us watching us as there were people at all the different stages and whatnot. So that was a cool experience. But yeah, we were. I was part of that whole thing where uh, I was lucky enough to be in bands that played with guys like NoFX and all the bands that were around, like those California punk bands and whatnot. Um, I was in a band called Oscar that was signed to Epitaph Records, which is like the big punk label. So yeah, it was pretty cool experience going through that whole punk thing. And then it kind of, you get older and you kind of graduate to rock. And we were able to play some pretty cool shows with guys like U6 and Lit and Zebrahead and Hoobastank, and there's a band that the singer for Incubus, his brother had a band called Audio Vent. We played with them, so not like high. We didn't actually play with guys like Incubus or Sublime or any of those other really high marquee name guys, but we were kind of in the middle, playing with the middle guys that were just under the radar as far as like mainstream rock and whatnot. So yeah, we were doing tons of shows over in the Hollywood scene and whatnot. And my uncle was just like, "Oh wow, you're doing a really good job." And he gave me one of his DW sets, a black kit that was, I want to say, a 7-piece. And I played that for a long time. And I was.
Did you still have that kit?
No, that's my next part of the story is I was a dumb kid who did a lot of dumb things and made a lot of dumb decisions and spent a lot of money where I probably shouldn't have spent it, and I ended up needing money. And my one thing was I wanted to sell it to somebody who knew who my uncle was and would keep the kit forever or for a long time. And I think I want to say I found the guy who I sold it to. Mm-hmm. I got to go and try to contact him and make sure it's the guy. But I sold it to someone in the UK, and he was a Carlos Vega super fan. And he said that he would keep it forever. It was like a dream come true to even be able to have a kit like this. So I guess it's the next best thing to just me keeping it myself. But yeah, I for a long time that's people say don't live with regrets. That's kind of one of my regrets is selling that kit.
We all have regrets with drum equipment. Trust me, I have my regrets too of drum equipment. But so was that the kit that he used with James Taylor, or was that just another one of the kits he used in the studio sometimes? Because he had a black kit, that he used with James Taylor.
Yeah, he toured. He did one tour with that kit, and I want to say he recorded New Moon Shine with that kit.
Wow.
So yeah, that was a painful one. That's a painful one to look back on. But it was before he passed away. Yeah. So it wasn't like, he passed away and then these two kits behind me are ones that I inherited, and then I'll never get rid of those. Those are.
Oh, you got those too. Wow. That's wild.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was that was your uncle's kit. The pink champagne one?
That one has gone like all over the world twice, I believe.
Wow.
And the other one, the cherry with the cherry stain with the brass hardware. I want to say that one he recorded Hourglass, and I forgot the name of the album, but it was a Reba McEntire album that he recorded.
Wow.
With that one. So
he played on so much music. I mean, his playing, we lost him too soon. He was the other Jeff. He was the other Jeff in town. I mean,
yeah.
It really, when Jeff died, it was painful for me because I was a big Jeff guy, and Jeff was really playing his butt off at that point in time. He did a couple albums that came out right after he died. The Dire Straits album where he played Calling Elvis, which I just did a cover of because I just love that song, and I had a friend that loved that song. And when Jeff died, my friend called me up and said Jeff passed. He was at the Springsteen concert. And Jeff was supposed to be playing drums with Springsteen, and Springsteen announced it at the concert. So,
oh wow,
yeah, Springsteen was brokenhearted that Jeff died, and he was broken. Everybody was broken up when Jeff died. But I think the same thing happened when Carlos died. It was the same thing. Everybody felt the pain, and it just was. It's hard when you see guys that, die. It's always hard when you see somebody young die. It's hard. It's hard. It just is. And you just don't understand. We just don't understand this life. I mean, we don't know how long we get. And that's why I said to you, like where we started today, with the interview, You know, I said to you, enjoy your kids while they're young. Enjoy your kid every moment, you know. This life's a journey, and if you don't enjoy every moment of it and you're not having fun and you're not doing things that are making you feel okay, then don't do them, you know. And the other thing is, and this was a hard one for me because I'm one of those guys that probably saw the world, you know, the glass half empty most of my life, you know, at least half my life. My wife changed me. It took her years, but she had an effect on me. And even though I came to Christ at a very young age. I was like 18 when I came to the Lord. So I had the Christian thing, and I had that in my life, but I still didn't see the world that way. I was still afraid of the world. I was afraid of everything. And when I got to the place where I stopped looking at the world as the glass half empty but half full all the time, the more positive way of looking at life, it changed me. It turned me into gratefulness. I live in a world where I'm grateful every day. You know, I wake up and I'm thankful for the sun, you know, the rain, whatever comes at me. You know, it's like, thank you for today. Thank you for breath. And when you start living that way, it changes you in ways, it just softens you in a way that I'd rather live there than live all hard and hating life, you know? And I feel bad when I see
Totally.
people aren't hating life, you know? And I know this pandemic's brought a lot of that out. I've seen a lot of hurting people, and I feel bad for them. And if I can help in any way, I try, but we can't fix it. The other thing I've learned when my son died was you can't fix that. I couldn't fix my son. I couldn't help him through his pain he was going through. And I couldn't have changed anything. And that's hard. That's a hard realization when you realize that. So with your uncle, it's the same thing. Nobody could get to him. And I'm sure a lot of
Yeah.
people felt that way, you know, like, why couldn't I help him? You know? So.
Yeah, that's the thing that I kind of like took from it as well is he it wasn't just him. I want to say I think it might have been 10 years afterwards. Uh his sister also committed suicide. So it was like a just kind of like a family thing. They have that mentality of just you know, always being depressed, sad. And to me, that's like I was there for a long time. I was sad for a long part of my life, and I feel like sadness is worse than anger because anger causes you to do things, and when you do something, there's always some sort of reaction. So if you're angry and you know there's a negative reaction to that, hopefully at some point those negative reactions cause you to wake up and say, oh, I'm doing these things that are making things even worse and even worse. Whereas sadness, you kind of just stay there and you don't really do anything about it until it's too late in some cases. So for me, I feel like sadness is worse than anger. And you know, I got to a point where it was kind of like my rock bottom when I was living in Houston. And there were two. You know, I was at that Frost poem. There were two ways I could have gone. I could have taken one road, or I could take the other road. And I took the road that it was just like, okay, I've just got to take care of myself. I've got to start all over again. I got to eat my pride. I got to do whatever it takes to just wipe the slate clean and do it all over again. But change the way that I view the world, myself, everything. And I did that. And now I'm here where I'm the most happiest that I've ever been. I'm the most successful that I've ever been. And I look back at that fork in the road and I always say to myself, I could have ended up in a totally different scenario. And really, it's just the choices that you make. And the mind is such a powerful thing. And when you take control of yourself, but also at the same time, give up a lot of what you think you can control, I think that helps out in a way. And with me giving up myself to God has helped me even more than I would even imagine. So, you know, I look back, and it's funny because I look back at I still remember the day that my dad told me I was under an apprenticeship with my dad. He was a graphic designer. I was learning how to, do graphic design as well. And my aunt called him, told him, he told me, both my sister and I were at my dad's shop, and my sister automatically started crying, and I was just like shocked, blown away. I want to say I was 20 years old. I've been playing drums for 7, 8 years now, and he was my number one, like head and shoulders above everyone else. And
Sure.
the sad thing to me about it is I found out later on. Um, my aunt had told me that he never got as involved with my drumming career as he wanted to, because he felt like he was so humble. He felt like his style and his way of playing wasn't something that I was into.
Mm.
So, those are the types of things that when you look back, and you take things for granted, right?
Yeah, for
I,
sure.
I take it for granted that he was my uncle. I should have reached out more. Those are the types of things I should have, could have, would have. And you look back
But
and
there forever, and you're a kid. You're growing up, and you didn't expect him to go anywhere. You know.
yeah, totally. So, but
Regret that regret is something you can't do anything about. I know that feeling too well.
you can't do anything about, but you can do something with the ones that are still here.
That's what.
So
Yep. That's it. That
you
that
learn
that's
from that experience.
that's the wisdom, and that's why I said, I mean, it wasn't. I wasn't coming from the place of having lost my parents when I told you about the kid thing, but in that interview, when we had that interview, it was like I told you about my experience with my kids because I watched them grow up and leave. You know what I mean? And your relationship changes when they are not in your house. They have their own families. All my kids had their own family, even my son. I just saw my two grandkids today through FaceTime. His kids, my two other grandkids, those are my son's kids. And every time I see them, it just breaks my heart, because he's not there. You know what I mean? And I am blessed that his ex-wife, the mother of my grandkids, lets us see them through FaceTime, lets us visit them since he's passed. I'm blessed. I look at that as a great blessing. But I can't tell you that when I get off the phone, I don't feel that, like, this emptiness inside. Like, I see my son and his son Trey, and his daughter Rosalind. I see that, and they have the Bennett name. I have two daughters and my son, so they're the ones that have my name, and he's not here to take them and show them anything. So I'm glad I'm not a big legacy guy, but there is something to that too, and you want to leave something for them. But I'm here for them, so I have to press forward even in my pain. And
Yeah.
it's really important that I'm there, and I don't take that for granted, but I started not taking it for granted. That's around the time the gratefulness thing turned around for me too, was when I realized my kids are growing up, they're leaving me, and they're going to have their own families. And my relationship changed with them. I had to treat them like grown-ups, which I love that aspect of it. I mean, I'm okay with that. Some parents have a hard time letting their kids grow up. I had no choice. I got pushed into it my story is not for this today, but there's a lot to my story and my grandkids. I started way too young. Let's just put it that way. Like, my first daughter made it that apparent to me. You know what I mean? But anyhow, let's go back to drums, because that's really what these guys are. If we have 5 people
Yeah.
left, I don't know anymore. We got a little
Too
but
deep, yeah.
we did touch on Carlos's drums. That I did not realize you had 2 of his kits. That is awesome. Did you get any of the Paiste cymbals though? That's the real question.
I got them, but they don't last. They break so easily. It's funny because
Did you
I've
have?
had
Let's start with the cymbals. Which cymbals did you have of his?
I had his whole Paiste signature series set. So I had the 20-inch ride,
Agree with you.
the
are just, they don't last. You're right. You're correct. Especially if you're a hard player.
Yeah.
He was a
Yes.
he was a finesse guy, so I'm sure. So what did you have? Like what was he using? A 20 or 22-inch deep ride, or what kind of ride did he have?
He was he started off with the 20-inch full ride. And
Okay.
then when he moved to the 22-inch, he gave me the 20-inch. He gave me his 18-inch China with rivets in it. He gave me his 16 and 18-inch full crashes.
The China was a signature too.
Yeah, they were all that's all he uses was he might have had a couple 2002s, but they were mostly signatures.
Right. Well, he used to have a beautiful 602 ride cymbal. He probably had
Oh
that.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, he
that.
kept that in his room. Yeah.
Yeah, that was that beautiful 602 ride with the blue label. I mean, that's a special cymbal. So, but you got all his signatures. That signature alloy cracks if you play hard on it, you know. So
yeah,
too bad.
I love those sounds, and I wish, like, I was looking at the Sweetwater catalog yesterday, and I was like, oh, maybe I should switch back to those. And it's like, it might be the right time because I don't play as hard as I used to. They stay right here. I'm not gigging or anything. It might be a good time and to try to invest in those again because I really love those sounds. I use Zildjians because they're durable and they sound pretty decent, and they're not as expensive as signatures.
Yeah, well, the reason I'm using the 2002s and the Giant Beats is they're a little cheaper than the signature. But the truth of the matter was, I always liked that old B8 sound. That was like I had a 505 in college, a 505 Crash 16-inch that I loved. I loved that cymbal. So when I bought this 505 Crash in 2013 in New York City, it was owned by Danny Gottlieb, the jazz drummer that used to play.
Cool. Yeah.
Stuff. It's got his signature on it. You know, he signed all these. He used to be a Paiste guy. He went to Zildjian. So he took all his Paiste cymbals, put them in Maxwell's drum shop in New York City. So I bought the 505 20-inch Crash. Well, I didn't have a Paiste that it paired with. I had two Paiste rides. I had a 60220 and I had a old like pre-serial number one, which is different than the blue labels. And I had a this 20-inch Dark Energy prototype. The 20-inch Crash didn't fit with those cymbals for some reason. It just didn't seem to fit with. So a friend of mine had my brother's old 505 hats. My brother played drums for a short season of life. I got those 505 hats, and I bought a Giant Beat ride, a 24-inch Giant Beat ride, and it was like, okay, that works. Then I bought an 18-inch Giant Beat, and now the 20 made sense. It like all worked together, and the 505 hats. And then I realized now I'm in B8 land. And once I started buying B8, then I bought the Giant Beat hi-hats, I bought the 20-inch multi, and then I bought the 16-inch 2002, and now the 18-inch 2002, and now I got a 22-inch 2002 ride. I finally found my way to where I really wanted to go. So it's kind of, you know. So I love the Paiste stuff, but I have a whole bunch of Zildjian things too, and Sabian, and that they have a certain sound. It's their thing, you know. And your A Customs have a certain sound. So I mean that was. And they are slightly more durable than the signatures. I had never found the signatures to be durable. That was my problem with them too. They break.
Yeah.
Now I broke my favorite China, my 16-inch thin China. It's cracked. You know, one day it just sounded like a dud. Couldn't figure it out. I didn't realize there was a hairline crack in it. It's crazy. So.
Are you into at all there's this new, I don't know if it's new, but to me it's new, this newer generation who do a lot of the cymbal stacking, and it's kind of like a partially open hi-hat where it's got that almost like a hand clap sound. I can never get into that. Like I have two cracked A Custom Crashes that I'm thinking about stacking, but they just sit there and I don't know, I'm just not into it. It's weird.
I got 3 or 4 cracked cymbals hanging around here that I do that once in a while just for the heck of it. But to be honest, I don't get it either. And I don't get why somebody spends $400 a zillion pre-cracked, crappy sounding cymbals. I still can't figure that out. It just doesn't make any sense. But
okay, so I'm glad I'm not the only one.
You're not the only one. See, it's usually guys that have cracked cymbals that know how bad they sound and then had to play with them for a while because they couldn't afford to replace them, that realize when they hear that sound, they go, why would you want that? Because I used to have to play this all the time because I couldn't afford to replace my crash cymbal. My first 16-inch thin Zildjian crash that I cracked. It was the first cymbal I cracked. Bam, I cracked it. I had to play it for about a year and a half cracked because I drilled the holes. That doesn't work. None of that crap works that they say. But I had to live with it because I couldn't afford anything else. So why would I want to go out and buy crappy broken stuff? Chadwick Perry's saying turn the 16 broken ones into 16-inch trash hats. That's what they're doing today. Yeah, that's nothing new, by the way. This is what Steve Gadd was doing back in the 80s. I don't know if there's a famous Steve Gadd video, Steve Gadd in concert with Paul Simon. And he has got the brokenest Zildjians you've ever want to see. And there's one where he's playing with Grover Washington Jr. in the Yamaha shirts. And he's got these broken Zildjian cymbals. You can see the crack. Like the one ride cymbal's got it looks like a mountain backwards, in it. It's that big of a crack in it. Playing it, Brian stuff. And that's his sound. He loved that cymbal, But so it's not like guys haven't. Elvin Jones used to do that, play the crack. Tony, they all played those crack cymbals. They had them. But now it's become a thing. Like let's make cymbals that sound like crack cymbals. That's what I can't figure out. You know what I mean? By the way, I want to say hi to Sean Woodley and Blake Nunn Drums and Jeff Holden for being on. Jeff, we talked about you early on. You have to go back and watch that. You were like in the first, So you got all Carlos's drums. You got your uncle's drums. You had his cymbals until you broke them all. Okay, I got that. So now you got a new DW kit. I'm going to let you finish on the new DW kit because I promise I will be out of here before 11 o'clock because you know why? I have to go do yoga with my wife. So there's a ritual, a Saturday ritual of doing yoga. So I've got that on the books. Luckily we do it Zoom now. So because of the pandemic. So it's means I don't do it in front of the guy telling me that's wrong what you're doing.
Oh wow, yeah, I never thought I would hear that come out of your mouth.
This guy do yoga. Nobody wants to watch me.
Yeah, the design series, I'm completely happy with them. In fact, when you factor in the money part, right? You can go the collector series way where it's like $6,000 a set. You can go the design way where it's like $1,000, $1,200, $1,500 a set. Or you can go the PDP way, which is like $700, $800, $900. I actually recorded a couple years ago an album for one of my bands, the Beaters, and one of the singers is also a drummer, and he has a PDP set, and it sounds great, especially when you have them tuned right and you use the Ambassador codeds. Those PDPs sound amazing. So really, I think when it comes down to it, they've got the sound dialed down. It's more the accessory stuff, the finishes, the different types of wood, the different hardware and whatnot, that kind of really take it to the next level. So for me, I had my eye on the acrylic design set for a long time. And something inside me I always go with my gut. And my gut was saying, I love the way that it looks, but I can't pull the trigger on $1,200 on an acrylic set, even if it's a DW set. So then they released the piano black, and I saw it, and I was like, oh, this reminds me of the first black set that I had that I sold.
Right.
So I was like, okay, it's come sort of full circle. And I think this is the time, with the flood, me not knowing whether these pretty much have lost a little bit of their integrity going through the flood.
Wow. Sorry about that.
So yeah, it kind of sucks. So it was kind of just the timing was right for me. I ever since that Pearl Export kit, I've never had to buy a kit. I mean, I'm again blessed. So 20, 25, 26 years later, it was just time for something new. With them being piano black, with them being a series of drums that I've been looking at for a while, it just made sense for me to pull the trigger and get them. The only one I don't have, I have the 8, 10, wait, no, sorry, 10, 12, 14, 16 toms. They have a 8-inch tom as well, which I usually don't care for too much. So yeah, I've got 4 toms, a 22-inch bass drum, and of course I didn't get the matching snare. I have my 5x14 Black Beauty. I don't think I'll ever.
Is that one of
I'll
Carlos
never.
too?
No, I bought that in 2006 or 2007 or so.
Do you have any?
I don't.
None
I
of his
have one.
DW drums or anything? Did he have any DW?
Uh, he had a Maple 6x14 that I had used on a couple of punk records, but nothing that I kept. My cousin has most of the stuff that he left. They actually made her when my uncle was still alive. They made her like a mini kid set. So I have the snare drum from that set
Pretty
as
cool.
my like side snare. Yeah. So, but yeah, the piano blacks look amazing. There's just
I always
something about them.
love that color. That's like one of my. It's the one color drum kit. There's 2 color drum kits I love. Blue Sparkle, which I had for a season. That's another story I won't bore you with today. And piano black. I've always wanted to get a piano black. Matter of fact, my original intention for my concert tom kit was to have them painted piano black, and I was going to put bottom heads on them like Steve Gadd did to his Pearl fiberglass concert toms. But I never had the money, and I didn't really want to spend the money on it, and so I ripped the finish off, and it became Hal Blaine drums instead, because now they're fiberglass, just raw fiberglass. But it's funny the way we think. But I love that finish. I mean that's an awesome finish, and it's even more awesome now that I know that all those drums are your uncle's drums. I don't think I've ever seen the red kit or the wood stain kit that you were talking about.
Yeah,
Have you ever cover with that?
I did. So it's funny. I set up my room back in early 2017, and I was using the Champagne Sparkle. This is Champagne Sparkle. It's not the glass or whatever it is they call it now.
Right.
So I started with that, and then I needed to change it up a little bit. So I did maybe about, I want to say 5 or 6 videos with the red set, and then I went back to the Champagne Sparkle set.
I got to find one of those videos, one of those with that. I haven't seen one of those for some reason. I don't know how I missed it, but I'll have to go back through your videos. I want to see that other kit, but it brings a lot more, means a lot more to me. I was always wondered if that was your uncle's kits, any of your uncle's kits, but I never saw him play the Champagne. I always saw that black DW kit that he had, I didn't realize that. That's awesome. I guess his daughter, your cousin, is that his daughter, right?
Yeah.
I guess. Does she have the Gretsch kit? Who's got the Gretsch kit?
She has the Gretsch kit. She has his blue stained DW kit with the bass drums with the natural wood. That was another one that was really nice. And then I think she has one more DW kit. I can't remember.
Wow.
But definitely those. She's definitely got the Gretsch, and she's definitely got the blue DWs.
I mean, that Gretsch kid is just famous, man. He played Yamaha early on in his career before you were born, way before you were born. And everybody played Yamaha in the late 70s, early. They were buying everybody. They were just going after anybody that was going to be good. But, I saw a video of your uncle playing with Freddie Hubbard. It was a PBS video. I don't know if you ever saw this video. I found it on YouTube.
No, I haven't.
but he was playing, it looked like old Ludwig drums with no bottom heads on them. He was playing his butt off. He was playing jazz. He was playing his tail off. And it was with Freddie Hubbard. And he was really young, really young. He was just so good. He was what a great drummer, man. You know, he did so he figured out how to make money, make a living at it, and he got in those studios. So I want to say thank you everybody that's been in here. Jim's Flies 2 just showed up, but Jeff Holden, Blake Nunn drums, Chadwick Perry showed up, Gary Gennaro. I mean, thank you all for showing up this morning, and good morning. And no, Jeff, I don't wear yoga pants, just so you know. And Jim Flies 2, yes, we were talking about Carlos Vega, and you can catch it on the replay because this will be up for the replay real soon. Kelly's been more than generous with his time this morning. Thank you for taking us down. Getting the questions answered about your uncle are just amazing. You said some really amazing stuff. For me, being a fan, I always wanted to ask you those questions. So I appreciate you being honest and sharing some of that story today. We went all over the gamut today, so I don't even know what I'll entitle this one. But I'll put Carlos. Somebody will watch it. Maybe I'll get a couple more subscribers. You never know. But that's one of the ways you brand your channel, just so you know, is you put the right titling. So right now it's Hanging with the Hammer, but the topics will be in there. I learned that with Ask Girl Anything. Ask Girl Anything number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 was not doing it. As soon as I started putting names of what I talked about, people would find me. It's just strange. Rototoms is a good topic. So if we just talk for a couple minutes, and I put that in about 2,000 views just for Rototoms. I've learned that because I did a whole video on Rototoms. So anybody out there wants to know the key to how to get subscribers, put Rototoms in your video title. All right.
I'm gonna try it.
You want to say anything else, Kelly?
No, just thank you for having me. This was a blast. I mean, I hope I can do it again in the future, and I hope I can get you back onto the channel because there just seems to be between you and I so much to talk about. And yeah, it just brought me right back to our interview, a year or so ago. And I always love talking to you. I always enjoy it. You are definitely one of the top ones that I always go to on YouTube. So yeah, just thanks for having me, and I hope you have a lot more happiness in your life. And just thank you so much for everything that you've done for me personally, as well as like in the drum community.
And if I ever get up to Jersey and I have a day to hang, I'll give you a call, and because it's not that far. I usually go down the Jersey Shore. That's where I grew up. So, I mean, if we can find a way to pull it together, I'd love to come over and see your studio, once we get through pandemic and all this other stupid crap that we do today, but
I might actually have to hit you up because at the end of this month, we're going to Hawaii, and my daughter is like totally into the oceanography world. So I'm feeling that when we go, we're going to be on the beach the whole time, and she's going to love the beach. And my project for my wife is when we come back, I need to find a beach on this side that we can take her over the summer. So I might be asking you for some.
There's some great oceanography places down here in Florida. There's a lot of places down here. So yeah, hit me up. I'll do a little research for you. I know some people that do that. So down here.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah. So
awesome.
My wife works at a university, so I'm hooked up with academics. So
got it. Cool.
Thank you for being on the show, Kelly. Thank you everybody for watching today. Catch the replay, and we will see you again. Hopefully next week I'll do another one. That's my plan. I'm gonna try to go weekly now. I'm having fun with this. I don't know who my next guest is, but or if I'll do guests, I may do questions again. So who knows? But thank you all. And if you want to ask a question for Ask Girl Anything, I don't have any questions. That's why I'm not doing another Ask Girl Anything, just so you all know that. So and check out my video series on how to make drum covers. I will put that in the description. And check out Kelly's channel, KMKanDrums. Hopefully we'll get you at least 1 or 2 subs out of this deal. So
cool.
All right. Thanks, Kelly. Talk to you soon.
All right. See you.
All right.